Hey everyone, so one of my subscribers commented to make a tutorial on how I made this bullet train animation.
次の駅は渋谷です。渋谷。
I'll break down how I set up this entire scene in this two-part series. Now the bullet train model I used for this animation was from the transportation add-on. But don't worry, for the purpose of this tutorial, I will show you where to get a free bullet train model so you can follow along. This first part is going to show you how to import and set up a free bullet train model for your animation. I will also show you how to set up your train tracks using BlenderKit and Kitbash 3D. In the second part, I'll show you the lighting setup, and then I will show you 4 different dynamic camera animations that you can try out in your scene. And as always, you can download this entire blend file on my Patreon if you don't want to go through the entire tutorial. What's important to note is the blend file for my Patreon members is actually less dense than the tutorial version. As you can see, the blend file on my Patreon has a poly count of less than 950,000 faces versus the tutorial version, which has over 3.5 million faces. And this is due to the train tracks. The blend file for my Patreon members is using a scanned train track without the geometry node setup, and they are duplicated using Alt-D, ultimately resulting in a lower poly count, making the scene more suitable for low-end systems while still retaining a high quality. So consider checking out my Patreon. It's the best way to support me as a content creator. Before we get started, I need you to download 2 add-ons. Link in the description. First, download and install BlenderKit. Then go to Kitbash 3D. I'll show you how to set up Cargo by Kitbash so you can easily drop in assets from their library. I'll leave a link in the description. You're going to want to make a free account, so go ahead and sign up. Once you've created your account, then download Cargo. You can download it for Windows or Mac. I have a Windows PC, so I'll download it for Windows. Once it's done downloading, go to the zip file. Mine was saved under my downloads. You're going to want to right click and unzip it. I'll extract it right here. Then you're going to want to right click this and install it. Okay, it's successfully installed onto my system and I'll sign in. So if you've made a free account, use it to sign in. Okay. Now go to models. For access, we can choose free models. So for example, I want to import in this model right here. So I'll choose this. Then I'm going to go to my target software and I'm going to need to make sure the correct target software is Blender. So if you've just downloaded and installed Cargo, you're going to need to click on Add New Software. Then select whatever version you're using. I'm using Blender 4.2. Hit Install. Now it's going to install the plugin into Blender. The plugin has been successfully installed. Now open up Blender. Go to Edit, Preferences, and then search for Kitbash. You need to enable it, so just click on this checkbox right here. And now it's enabled. Save preferences and close out of this. Hit N on your keyboard and go to the Kitbash 3D Cargo. You'll see it on the side right here. Activate Cargo. Now it's activated. Now you can just easily import any models from Cargo into Blender. I want to import this one-story tract houses into Blender. So again, make sure you have Blender 4.2 selected, and then you're going to want to download it first. So make sure you download it. I'll be using the 1K texture size. Download. Okay, it downloaded. Now all you have to do is just hit import. It might take a while for your first time, but looks like it imported, so we can check. Let's go to Blender And look at that, it imported into Blender successfully. So I'll go over this again during the tutorial, but this was just a quick way to import in assets from Cargo. Okay, now we're ready to start the tutorial. Okay, to get started, we're gonna need to download a bullet train model online. So for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm gonna be using this free bullet train model made by Marion87. So go ahead and just click on free download. Make sure you have an account. So you're gonna wanna download the second one, the FBX version. So click on download. Once you have it downloaded, bring it into a folder where you can find it easily. I'm going to bring it into my scene assets bullet train folder right here. And then you're going to want to unzip it. So make sure you unzip it. I'll extract the files here. And there is the 3D model. Once you have it extracted, go back to Blender, hit A and then X to delete everything. Hit File, Import, FBX. Go to where you just saved it. So I saved mine in this bullet train folder, and here it is, the 3D model. Import FBX. So for some reason, there's 2 bullet trains in this file. We're gonna need only one, so let's delete the other half. We'll go on the X view right here. We'll go into wireframe mode. Let's deselect everything by clicking over here. And then I'll select this, and I'll just hit X and then delete all objects. Now we'll go into the Y view. We're only going to select the bullet train here. So try to select only the bullet train. There we go. And then we'll just hit H to hide it. Now if you go back into solid mode, we're left with the tracks. And we don't need these tracks here. So we can just hit A and then X to delete everything. Then hit Alt H on your keyboard to bring everything back. And now we're just left with the bullet train model. Go back to the X view. Let's move it to the middle. So hit G and then Y on your keyboard, and then we can move it directly into the middle. Now hit Shift A, add in an empty sphere. Let's go to the X view. Let's hit G and then Z and we'll bring it up. Then just hit A to select everything and make sure this sphere is the last one selected. So it should be this light yellow color like this. Hit Control P and then parent it to the object. Now all the parts of the bullet train are connected to this empty here, which will control the entire bullet train. We can rename this empty to bullet train controller. Hit Z and then go into material preview. We're going to adjust the materials of the train. So select the main material right here. Go to the material properties. Let's go to this color right here. And I believe it controls the main base color of the train. And it does. Okay. I'm going to set the metallic to 0.5 and I'll make the roughness 0.1. We'll rename this to base color. We can also go ahead and go into edit mode by hitting tab, deselect everything, and we'll go use the face select tool and we'll hover over the windows and hit L to select only the windows. So we'll do that for all the windows on the train. Just hit L while hovering over the windows. Then on the material properties, hit the plus icon to add in a new material slot. Hit new. We'll call this windows. Change the roughness to 0.1 as well. Then go ahead and hit assign. And it should change the materials of the windows. Now we can go ahead and change the surface type to glass. And so now it'll be more reflective. And you can adjust the roughness over here. We need to repeat this same process on the other side. So select this side of the bullet train, hit tab to go into edit mode, deselect everything, and then again hover over the window only and hit L, and we'll do the same thing. Add in a new material slot, and we can just go and we can just search for the window material right here and click on window. Then just hit assign. And it'll change the materials of the windows on this side as well. You can do the same thing for the back parts of the train as well, but I'll do that later. For now, this is good enough. I'll just quickly change this to roughness of 0.2. Rename this collection to bullet train. Now let's save this Blender file. So go to File, Save As, and rename it to bullet train from CGTrader. And then I'm going to save this file in my Blender projects folder. So save as. Again, you can save it wherever you want, but just make sure you can find it. Alternatively, you can also use another bullet train model if you don't like this one. So you can go on Sketchfab and download this bullet train model made by Dan ZJS. The issue with this one is there's no back body on it. It's only this single piece here, but don't worry, we can fix that. Once we set it up for animation, we can extend the body as well. So go ahead and download the model. When you download this model, you need to make sure you give credit to the creator because there is a CC attribution license, a Creative Commons. Yeah, make sure you give credit to the creator when using this model here. So we'll download a 3D model. We'll be using this format right here, the JLTF. So click download. So once you have it downloaded, you can save it to another folder. I'll save it in my assets folder right here. And then you need to make sure you extract all the files from this zip folder. So right click and then just extract all the files. And then these 3 files should show up. You should read the license file here. So if you plan on using this 3D model in your project, make sure you copy and paste this credit and share it to wherever you post it. So this is the file we're going to be opening in Blender. It's called scene.gltf. Come back to Blender, go to File, Import, GLTF, go to where you saved it. It's going to be called scene.gltf. Import. And when you import it into Blender, it's going to be way too big. So first deselect by clicking anywhere in your scene here. So just deselect and then select your Sketchfab model right here. Hit S and then scale it down. You can zoom out. Hit S, scale down. Let's go into the X view. Hit RZ90, enter to rotate it. G and then Z. So I think that's a good size. The exact size I'm using for it is right here. So you can copy that scale if you want. But now we need to extend it so it's, just as long as this. So let's go into Material Preview. We can actually hide our original bullet train model. So just hide that. This bullet train model, we want to bring it into its own folder. So we can just hit A to select everything. Hit M, new collection. We'll call it bullet train option number 2. Create. So now all these parts are in their own folder or collection. Now we can adjust the material. So let's go click on this. Let's make the roughness 0.1 and we'll make the metallic 0.5. We'll do the same thing on this side. Roughness is going to be 0.1, metallic 0.5. Same with the middle piece here, 0.1, metallic 0.5. We also want to select the windows here and make the roughness 0.1. Okay, now collapse this and then collapse it again, collapse this again, and we'll select this part right here, go all the way down, hold shift and select all the parts here. Go to the -Y view, hit Alt-D on your keyboard to duplicate it, and then escape to put it back in place. Now just select this individual part only, hit G and then X on your keyboard, and we can move it back. If you go back to solid view, you can see that it's clipping a little bit, so we can scale it by hitting S and then Y, and then scale it a little bit till it's not clipping anymore. And then let's go to top view and just make sure it is centered out. It's still clipping a little bit, so we got to hit S and then Y again and scale it in a bit. That was too much. SY, just a little. Go to top view, and we can just move it. Okay. It's not clipping anymore. It's looking fine on both sides. Nice. Okay, now let's go back to the top of your collection right here. Let's select this part right here. We'll go down and then go all the way to object 17, hold shift and then click. Go to -Y, we'll hit Alt Z again, and then G and then X, move it back. This time we're gonna rotate it. So hit R and then Z on your keyboard, then rotate it 180 degrees on your keyboard, 180. Enter. Go to top view. We'll just fix it up. Okay, nice. And now we can just collapse all of this. And now if you click on this, empty right here, it'll control the entire train. And so now you can bring back your old bullet train right here, and you'll have two options now. You can either, for the tutorial, I'll be using this one here. It's entirely up to you which one you want to use. Again, it doesn't really matter because once you're done making the scene, you can always just end up replacing the train model with whatever train model you like. But yeah, these are the two options you can use. You can go with this one, or you can go with this one. Okay, go back to solid mode. Go ahead and save this file. So I'll be saving it. Now we can start a new project. Okay, now we're going to move on to setting up the main scene with the train tracks and city. We'll start with the train tracks. To get the train tracks, we're going to use an add-on called BlenderKit. Now, if you already have it downloaded and installed, go to Edit, Preferences, and make sure it's enabled. So I'll search for BlenderKit, and I'll checkmark this box here to enable it. Then I'll hit Save Preferences and close out of that. A search bar should pop up here. Let's hit A and then X to delete everything in our scene right now. Then we'll search for train tracks. Enter. We can checkmark this free first option. And we'll be using these train tracks right here made by Addons Mentioned. So drag that into your scene. Then hit N, click on your train tracks, go to Item, and we'll center it out by changing all the location transformation to 0. The rotation is going to be 90 degrees. Hit Ctrl A, apply the rotation. What's cool about these train tracks is that you can control them using a geometry node setup if you go to the modifiers here. We'll change the pebble resolution to 1 on both, and we'll change the resolution on the data properties to 1 on both as well. And we don't need to use the path animation, so we'll just uncheck that. Now to extend this, we can go into edit mode by hitting tab, and we can use these points here to extend the train tracks. So I'll start by extending it from here. I'll click on this, I'll go to the top view, and I want this train track to be about close to 1,000 meters. So to get that measurement, we'll zoom out a lot, and I'm going to use this measuring tool right here. I'll measure out about, I'll go to 900 meters actually. So I'm going to go all the way down, and I will try to get to 1,000 meters, or sorry, 900. So right here's, let's go to 900. Yeah, 900 is good. I'm going to use this annotation tool, and I'll just draw a line right here, which is about 900 meters. Now I'll go back to my train tracks. I'll use this selection tool here, or this move tool here, and we can just move our train tracks all the way down to where we marked off the 900 meter mark. So I'm going to keep moving it down towards this mark right here. And there you go. Now we can just erase this little mark we made by going to the Annotate tool, and we can just click and hold and use the eraser here and just erase that. And then go back to the select box. And there you go. You have a pretty long train track here. We can also extend this point right here. We'll just move it back just a little bit. Let's go back into object mode by hitting tab, and we'll hit N. I'm going to move it up 80 meters. So that's going to be pretty high up if you zoom out. And now we can go ahead and bring in our bullet train. So to import in our bullet train, we're going to go to File, we're going to hit Append, and we're going to search for the project that we previously saved, which I named it, I believe I named it Bullet Train from CGTrader. So if I go to I saved mine in the project, in my Blender projects folder, I'll search for Bullet Train from CGTrader, and there it is right there. So we'll double click that, and then we'll go to Collections, and just click on this bullet train connection right here, and then hit Append. And there is our bullet train, and there's our bullet train collection. So we're going to rotate it by hitting R and then Z90 on our keyboard to rotate it. Again, we're going to bring it up by hitting N. We'll move it up 80 meters. It needs to be a little higher than that, so we can just move it up, actually. Zoom out and just make sure it's slightly above the train tracks here. So again, maybe like we'll adjust it from here. I think that's good. So right now our scene has about over 650 or 672,000 faces, which is a lot, and that's because of our train tracks. So when we extended it, it increased the poly count as well. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to be using 3 of these. So we're going to do Alt-T on our keyboard to duplicate it. I'm going to hit X on my keyboard, and I'm just going to move it to the side. And that way I have 3. Next, we're going to need some sort of platform to hold all 3 of these train tracks, because right now nothing's holding them up. So to get that platform, I'm going to use another asset browser called Kitbash. So let's first enable that add-on by going to Edit, Preferences, search for Kitbash. And it's right there. I'll just check mark the box to enable it, and then I'll hit Save Preferences, and I'll close out of that. When I hit N, I should see it on the side right here, Kitbash 3D, Activate Cargo, so make sure that's activated. So I activated it. Now I can go and open up Cargo by Kitbash. So I have the app on my desktop right here. Open it up, sign in. Again, you can make a free account. All right, once you've signed in, go to Models, go to Access, checkmark Free, and then we'll search for Highway. We'll be using this Highway A model, so click on that. Make sure you download it, and once you have it downloaded, you should see this import button here. But before you click import, make sure you have the correct target software. The correct target software for me is Blender, of course, and I'm using a Blender 4.2. Specifically, I'm using Blender 4.2.3 LTS, which is the stable version. So again, once you have the correct target software, all you have to do is just hit import. And then you can go back to Blender, and you should see your highway asset right here. So you can click on the period on your number pad to zoom in on it and zoom out, and there it is. So let's deselect everything by clicking over here. And then let's select all the platform assets from Kitbash, like this. Make sure everything's selected. And then we'll hit M, New Collection. We'll call it Track Base Create. So that'll be in its own collection now. Now we got to move it up. So select your platform by clicking over here. We'll go to Items, and we'll make it 80 meters for the Z location. We also got to rotate it, so hit 90 to rotate it, and there you go. So let's hide our bullet train asset for now. So just check mark the collection right here. And we need to make sure the platform is not clipping through our train tracks. So let's just move it down a little bit. That's good. Okay, now we need to duplicate this platform all across the entire train tracks. So let's go ahead and open this. We'll select all the items, selecting all the items for the highway here. Zoom out. Let's go to top view. And then, very important, hit Alt-D on your keyboard to duplicate it. And then we will hit Y on our keyboard to move it on the Y axis. And we'll just move it and make sure it just connects. Okay, let's actually hide our train tracks for now as well. So just hide our train tracks. Now we can just hit A, and then let's go to top view again. We'll hit Alt-D on our keyboard to duplicate it, and then Y to move it on the Y-axis. And again, we're just going to make sure they are connected properly, like that. And then again, hit A on your keyboard, and then Alt-D again to duplicate them. And we're going to keep going until we reach 900 meters. I think that's far enough. Let's bring back our train tracks. Oh yeah, we went way too far. So I'll just end up deleting. We'll go into wireframe mode and we'll delete all the ones that don't have a train track on them. So I'll hit X and then delete, and boom. There we go. We're actually going to duplicate all of these. Again, we're going to have 2 of them. This is optional. You don't have to do this, but I want to do this to fill out my scene more. So I'm going to hit A, and then I'll hit Alt-D again on my keyboard to duplicate them. And then I'll hit X, and I'll move it on the X-axis. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the first highway. I'll go into edit mode, hit A, or double click A to make sure everything is deselected, and then I'll hit A again to select everything. Hit S and then Z to scale on the Z axis. And I'm just going to scale it on the Z axis a little bit. Then I'll hit G and Z on my keyboard. I'll move it down so it's not clipping through. Then I'll go back into object mode. Let's bring back our train, our bullet train, to see what it's looking like. I like that. Next, we're going to import in our city. So click on your scene collection, right click, make a new collection, name it cities, because we're going to have multiple cities. So for the city asset, we're going to be using this Tokyo model provided by Stefan Gerardo123. So thank you, Stefan. So we'll click on free download right here. You're going to want to download this one right here, the Shibuya Scramble Crossing Detail Blend file, specifically for Blender. So click on download. And then once it's done downloading, make sure you save it into a folder of your choice. Go back to Blender, go to File, Append, and go to where you saved that city asset. It's going to look like this. Double-click the blend file, go to Objects, hit A to select all the objects, and hit Append. So all these city objects should show up in your cities folder or collection that you made. We'll zoom in on it, and there it is. Let's go to the -Y view, and we'll delete this sun here. See the sun here? We'll use the selection tool and hit X to delete the sun. And there's a camera here as well. We don't need that. Just hit X to delete it. Go back to the -Y view and just click over here to deselect anything. Let's go to wireframe. We'll select all the objects of the city. We can use the move tool actually. We can hold Control and we'll just move it to the side. Well, actually, I don't need to use Control. I'll just make sure this is in the middle, and we'll move it up. Let's go to the bottom by clicking on the -Z here. Let's go back to solid mode, and we'll make sure it's in the middle of the origin. So let's just move it to the middle. So I think something like that works. So now we can go back to the Y view here. Let's do Shift-A. We'll add in an empty sphere. We'll move the sphere up. Then we're just going to we'll deselect by clicking over here. We'll go into wireframe and then select everything. Make sure the empty is the last thing selected. So once it looks like this, hit Control P to parent it to the empty. If you go back to solid mode, this empty controls the entire city right here. We can rename this empty to City Controller. Let's zoom out, and we're going to we'll rotate it by hitting R and then Z on our keyboard, and then 90, enter. Then we'll go into the -X view, hit N. We're going to scale it up by controlling the scale here. We'll change the scale to 67, which will make it really big. I'll move it up by 300 meters. Then I'm going to move it forward as well. So you can see it's clipping here. The view is clipping. So to fix that, we can go to Tools, or View, sorry, and change the view to, or the end clipping to 10,000. So add another 0, hit enter, and now we can see more of the viewports. So if we zoom in here, I want the city controller to be a little more up. Something like that works. Okay, if we zoom out, we can notice that if we turn off the overlays, we can see that train tracks is clipping through this building right here, and we don't want that. To get a better view, we can just change this to cavity, and we can change the color to random to see what's going on better. And now we got to make sure the train tracks are not clipping through this building here. So turn back on overlays, and we're going to adjust the position of the city here. So I'm just going to do that real quick here. So I'll rotate it. Okay, so this is the final positioning of my city. You can copy my location and rotation settings right here, as well as the scale, just as long as the city controller is selected here. So, okay, now listen, don't worry too much about having the exact same location and rotation settings as my city here. Just as long as your city generally looks like this, you'll be completely fine. You just need to make sure the train tracks are going straight down the road like this without touching any of the buildings here or without clipping any of the buildings here. So as long as your train tracks and city generally looks like this, your scene will be completely fine. All right, now let's go ahead and select our highway platform, zoom in on it, and we're gonna go into edit mode. And we're gonna hit Control R to add in 2 loop cuts by scrolling on my mouse wheel like this. We'll click and then hit Escape to set it back in place. And then we'll go to the middle right here. While using the Face Select tool, we'll select this middle face right here where the empty is located. And then we're just gonna hit E to extrude down, which will create a pillar. Hit G and Z if it's not long enough, and we'll just put it down to the floor here. And now you got some pillars. All right, that's it for this video. Don't forget to like this video and make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future tutorials. Okay, see you in part 2.